Welcome back to the podcast. Hope you enjoyed the previous few videos we had up. I'm joined by my co-hosts Sonny and Gark, and a special edition here tonight, Kitty Cat in the corner. Before we go any further, I would like to apologise for any noises that you hear in the background. I live in a student accommodation. We all have to start somewhere, lads, and tonight, upstairs and downstairs, I'm in the middle between two apartments, have decided both to have a session, so lucky us. Anyway, moving on from that, today's phrase of the day is, are you taking the piss? And to put that in context, are upstairs having a laugh, are they taking the piss? Translated into, are they joking? Are they having a laugh?
I think so, definitely session. Are any of our listeners on a session today? If so, tell us about it.
Woohoo.
God knows we've had our fair share.
It is midweek, and also, like, what's the saying? Happy hump day, lads.
Yeah, and happy hour is any hour, I suppose.
Yeah, that's true.
As they say. Today's topic is not getting what you want out of life, 10 things you wished you knew when you were younger that you knew now. And one of them was definitely, I wish someone would have told me how bad the hangovers would be when you started drinking.
Absolutely.
And I got lied to. They told me that they'd get easier with age, but no, the more I get into my 20s, the worse they get. And if I could go back, I would definitely tell my younger self not to touch a drop of vodka and mix it with Red Bull. The vodka's okay, the Red Bull is what seriously fucks you up.
Zambuca would have to be my evil demon. Zambuca is the one that sends me on all types of adventures. Vodka, I could drink vodka coffee. If any of our listeners had a vodka coffee, tell me how good you think it is, because it's absolutely amazing. Sounds disgusting, but is amazing. Yeah, things I wish I knew while I was a bit younger, that, you know, we spend so much time studying in education, we'd actually be taught something about money and how it works and how to save it, and, you know, what rent is about and electricity and the €50 charge if you don't have a medical card to go into, you know, the GP just to see if you have COVID or not nowadays. But yeah.
I think one of the things that I wish I knew more about growing up was like gardening, and in general, like how to have a routine, or like how you could live by yourself and do things for yourself. Because I find that, like, as we all get older, we want to be able to be standing on our own 2 feet, and it can be really hard if you don't know, like you said, Sonny, how to manage money, how to pay rent, pay your bills. Like,
I totally agree.
How to fucking feed yourself.
School doesn't teach, yeah, they slap you in a room with people that you don't necessarily get on with for 6 years of your life and expect you to come out knowing everything, and really none of that helps you when you get to college. Like, none of it really is relevant a lot of the time. And then you're moving out and you don't know what to do. You're literally up shit creek without a paddle at that stage, because you're kind of thrown out. Like, lads, I'm not going to lie to you, when I first moved out, I didn't know how to use a washing machine. My mother didn't trust me. She literally wouldn't let me near the washing machine in the house.
A lot of households teach their kids how to do their washing, and that's very good, and it's a great routine to get into. But anybody knows if you're 1 or 2 washes behind, that's the biggest pain to catch up on. It's just all about trying to get your washing done and having them clothes ready, you know?
Well, I think if anybody has perspective on what we're talking about, it's Kitty Cat. Because you were living away from home for how long?
3 years.
And when did you move back?
I moved back in March, and now I'm still living there. And yeah, like, it's okay moving home, but then when I miss my independence now and I want to come back, and it's been a bit of difficulty that way, because I want to come back, but like the housing situation, as everyone knows, isn't great at the moment. Prices are going up with everything, so trying to find accommodation and stuff, like, so that links into what I wish I knew, because you grow up, like, you're not taught the modules that will really help. Like, yeah, we have cooking and stuff, but like, where's this, like, money module is how to manage money, like, you know, stuff like that, more courses on employment and things. But
and like, for any of our listeners, we have TY in Ireland, which is transition year, and that's basically a gap year between, like, for Americans, basically it would be your sophomore year in school, and it basically throw you into it and bring you on all these trips just to give you a break. But what happens during that break is you don't want to go back the next year, And that's exactly what happened to me. And let's just say it didn't really end well for my final 2 years of school. Hated it from start to finish.
My transition year experience was, I didn't do the school show, so there's always a school show, and then you have like electives that you pick. I think I did nutrition, I did self-defense, I did yoga, and I did ECDL. And I really enjoyed the yoga. It's one of the reasons I still practice, was because of how good that teacher was. Self-defense helped me, but I can't remember any of the moves. What else did I say? Nutrition and health and fitness was good, but it was basically like an extra PE class once a week. And I suppose in a way it's kind of stemmed to where I am now. But like, I do remember the Board of Education releasing statements about some schools in the area where we were from, that they were doing too much academic work in TY. So we did half of the curriculum in transition year.
Yeah, and like it's really important as well, like that one good teacher can make all the difference.
Yeah, it really does.
Because I find in school you only have that one kind of teacher you gravitate towards, and the rest of them kind of like they're basically, to put in layman's terms, are assholes. Like, they don't show you any respect, and they expect to be like, respected back. And I really feel it. One teacher makes a difference. Like, it just takes kind of one teacher to kind of show you, that they care, or to put that extra bit of help in it. Because let's face it, like, navigating your teens is hard enough, right? Without having like school issues on top of it. Like, that's one thing that, like, I wish I knew. Like, if I could go back, I would like just kind of like stand up for myself more and stuff. Yeah. Like, tell your younger self that you don't have to take this bullshit.
Yeah, I think one thing that I wish I knew growing up was that your problems at the time don't really matter, because your problems in the future are going to be so much worse.
Oh yeah, when you hit your 20s.
You know what I mean? It does it, like, not necessarily, like, look, we are the ages that we are, so we only know what we know from the ages that we know, and from our elders giving us a bit of advice. But until we actually get there, when you're like, 50 something, and hopefully we're all extremely rich and successful off this podcast,
so get subscribing.
I'm only messing, guys, but you won't really understand the problems you'll have when you're older until you are there. And then at that stage, the problems you've had when you're 20 something or 30 something or even 17 at this stage, my problems don't seem half.
You can look back and laugh.
Yeah,
like when a certain time has passed, you can look back and laugh. But I've seen a quote on Instagram that made me laugh. It was like, when you get over like 25, you don't need an alarm clock because your problems will wake you up alone. That is truth. I think it's like, because it gets to that, like they say, when you're like 25, you're vintage. It's kind of like, it's kind of scary, because it's like you're on the wrong side of 25 when you get to 26, and then from there life is kind of dwindled, and I still feel like I don't know shit.
It goes like slightly downhill.
Yeah, I think if you don't have a good, if your parents and like people around you that you grow up in, and even into your 20s, people you spend time with, you learn something from all of them, and you end up picking habits along the way. And like, you don't really know if they're good or bad habits until you're like 50 or 60, and then you're like, how am I supposed to go about and unlearn all of this?
Yeah, because they say old habits die hard.
Yeah, like, Kitty Cat, have you picked up any bad habits while being at home that you wish, like, if younger you was there, what do you think she would say about some of the habits you've picked up since you went home?
I'm just trying to think. Since I've got home, I just feel like I'm more isolated.
Yeah.
I don't know, that's not really a habit, but then I suppose it kind of is, because it ends up being a cycle where I'm just like, when I'm finished work, I have to try and motivate myself to go and do something, because the town I'm in, it's just like, there's no opportunities in it, like, it's just...
Agreed.
You know what I mean? Yeah, like, Dizzy knows because she grew up with me, but it's just that kind of...
Yeah. And it's a small town where everybody knows everybody's business, and like, before something happens, the whole town would know. So it was kind of that atmosphere, and it was.
But like the thing at home as well is like everyone's in the one kind of clique. Like if you're anyway different, like no one gives a fuck about you. Like, do you know what I mean? At least down here, there's so much different groups and so many different
much variety.
Exactly.
So
Like,
what kind of advice would both of you actually, since you've chimed in as well, what advice would both of you give your younger selves, like, about your hometown?
I'd honestly start with it. Don't give a fuck what anyone else thinks, because whatever they're thinking about you, they have their own shit going on as well. So no one can afford to be throwing rocks at glass houses in this situation. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my take on it. What about you, Dizzy?
It's the hard one, because like I really didn't like growing up in a small town. I like being in a city where no one really knows your business. But if I had to go back and tell my younger self, like I'd probably take Kitty's version of it as well. Don't stop caring what people think, because it's irrelevant when you're older and you won't see these people. You know what I mean? I see them at once a year best. But as well, like I said, you know, don't take people's bullshit. And like, you know, you could have tried a little harder in school as well. Wouldn't have killed you. You know. But look, I got a good degree. So school was completely irrelevant, and it did not help me one bit in learning that. Secondary school, high school, didn't help. Like I feel like if you dropped out, you would probably get to the same level as I'm at now than if you had stayed in this day and age. There is literally tons of avenues you could go down. Like even 10 years ago when we were in school, like it was so much different. There wasn't as much resources or anything now. Like, by the way, like when our school was so small, there was only 120 pupils in the whole school. Transition year didn't come in till we were in school.
No
Me and Kitty,
way.
yeah, we were the first year to trial it, so we had to do it. We couldn't move on to fifth year, we had to do it. So that was an extra year in school. If I had my choice, I would have skipped.
Like walking up fucking mountains. Like
Who the hell wants to walk up a mountain? Like?
You did Gashka as well?
Oh yeah, that wardrobe.
Oh yeah, and we went to a nursing home. Now I admire people, lads. Right, give it a go. I love you. The people who are genuinely caring, people that could do that. But I will tell you that now. I studied law in college, so my brain is not in social care. But oh my god, it was. You know what?
Did you have to do a nursing home in transition year? Was it 4-year work or Gashka? Because I know you have to volunteer.
Gosh, you had to volunteer. It lasted a week, and I pulled out of the program. Me and Kitty did it a week, and we pulled out of the program. But in our defence, we were 15 years old, and we had the attention span of like fish. So, what could you do? Like, did you Sonny? Did you enjoy your school experience?
School was interesting. The only thing that made it worthwhile going to was, one, because my mum told me to.
I think that's why we were all there.
Two, because there's always that like one sound teacher, and you know what I mean. Like you happen to have one sound teacher on every day, and it's like, right, well, that little old lady teaches maths. I don't mind her. I'm gonna go in and do ordinary level maths and just listen to this old lady patter about for the next half hour, which is fantastic. Double on a Friday, lads. By the way, lads. If I could go back, I would, absolutely, 100%. Would I change a few things? Probably, but it means I wouldn't be here. So, I mean, it's kind of like that. But 3 is the friendship groups that you make, and it kind of builds you as a person. You know what I mean? So it's,
Do you still speak to the people you went to school with, Sonny?
I have a friend over a decade, and he's listening, and I know he's listening. So, hey, brother, what's going on? You know what I mean?
What's up to you, man?
Such a Cork thing, isn't it?
I know you're listening, but yeah, no. So look, I mean, school was what school was, but the problems looking back, and it's like back in school you're really young, so it's like, oh my god, this is the end of the world. My life's over. She doesn't love me. And it's like, well, look, you're going to have rent, and you're going to have to work like 40 hours a week, and you're going to have to do this and do that. So honestly, her love for you right now at the age of 12 don't really fucking matter.
Oh, if you only knew the problems to come. You would think that this is little stuff like following on. I had that little old lady teacher that all she did was read out of a book. It was my geography teacher, and like she was also the vice principal. And if you took her class, she'd love you. Like, she was strict with everyone else, but if you took her class, you could actually come in dressed as a clown and she wouldn't have cared. She loved you. Kitty can attest to this. She did not take up geography.
I didn't take her class because I just thought she was a bit of an asshole to me.
She was.
Yeah, over a coat.
She
Like,
was.
did anyone else in Ireland have this strict fucking rule at school, right, that you have to wear the school coat?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
€50 for the school coat.
Oh,
But I
it doesn't
came in
even have a hood.
Green.
No, the hood
Parker
isn't a
when
zip.
I got in trouble.
Yeah, but it's awful. It's like a
It's
plastic
a
bag.
paper. It wouldn't protect you from nothing.
What coat did you pick instead of the school
I
coat?
wore this green fluffy one. I'm
Parker.
sure I thought I was the shit one in the school gate. Anyway, I went in and some boy in my class ratted on me because I had a school coat because he was giving out to that for something else. And he goes, yeah, well, she's wearing this coat and it's not her school one. So yeah, I got a bit in trouble with that. So it wasn't great. But I'm sure you've had an experience like that in school as well.
Do you remember sneaking away at break time and going for your cigarettes?
Mm-hmm.
Anybody who used to smoke
We used to do it during PE.
Yeah.
during PE?
Yeah, we used to do it during, or for the American listeners, gym. We used to do it during our physical activity. We used to go away and hide in like little laneways. They used to bring us on a walk and we used to just like
Trade
get off.
behind
Trade-
everyone else, like, and just.
One-
Serious?
One day one of the boys went up to the principal and ratted us out, but like at this stage, like the principal just had enough of the shit, and he was like, sorry, the girls were smoking, and he turned around and goes, stop bullshitting. And we actually were. He wasn't actually lying. We were. And it was hilarious. But you know what? Regret nothing. We were so not fit. It was so bad. Like, and this would happen from like the moment we started smoking, like 16 to like 6th year. Every time we had PE, we would literally go and smoke fags.
How did you get away with that? I feel like I'm the only person in this entire group that didn't smoke while I was in school.
Yeah, Gert, how was your school experience?
I tended not to engage in PE very often unless it was like freestyle PE. What else? I don't know, like I had different friend groups and there was like lots of drama and it was a mixed school, but there was like 90 people in my year, and then the biggest scandal I think we had in the evening search was like there was rumours going around about like people being pregnant that weren't pregnant.
The classics.
Typical Irish.
Yeah.
And other than that, like there was a couple of people in my year. There was one fella actually, oh my god, I'm going to call him Klingon because his name was so strange. Never spoke in any of the classes, right? But he'd sit in the back and he'd be eating sunflower seeds, right? And I found out apparently this guy was taking Xanax and other tablets in the bathrooms. And like this was a
Office shoppers.
But like at this time, lads, I had no idea, no knowledge of like tablets, nothing about drugs, none of that. Like,
Sure, why would you? Do you know what I mean? At
the
that
worst thing
time,
I did was be late to school. Like maybe wore a scarf or like sometimes I'd be wearing the
broke
wrong
the dress
shoes.
code.
Yeah, like big
Oh.
whoop, like.
God forbid you wore the wrong shoes.
Oh, God forbid they wore black or brown.
That's it.
Is that
And they
all
couldn't be
you had?
runners. Black, brown, weren't they?
Yeah.
Or it had to be Dubarry's. Or like.
Or the what's called AVA.
Oh, the AVAs. Now, to be fair, I see people
AVAs.
rocking them with jeans.
Yeah.
AVAs.
Why do you call them AVAs?
That's what they're called. AVAs.
What?
Okay, this is a debate now.
This
like,
is a debate.
No,
There
but I
are
know
called
what she's on
AVAs.
about. What
Yeah.
do you call them?
Dubarry's.
Yeah, I think that's actually AVA is like
The actual name of the shoe.
Yeah.
The Barry's actually the name. I think the people who create them, but I think the name of the shoe was AVA.
That's disgusting.
or maybe
I thought they
it's-
were called loafers. This sounds like a pilot.
Wait,
shoe.
I thought loafers were like kind of slippery.
Yeah.
That's
But
what I
do they
thought
not
loafers
look
were.
like
Genie
slippers?
shoes, you know them type of things.
Is that what a loafer is? A
Yeah.
genie shoe?
That's what I call them. Like they look like them. The shape.
That's what I thought a loafer is.
Okay, I have a follow-on question. Did anybody else have to wear slippers in primary school?
No.
What?
I can't, lads, honest to God, I can't remember my primary school experience.
Did
Like-
you have to wear slippers?
In those days, I was lucky to have shoes.
No. No slippers in my primary
No,
school.
actually, but remember someone in mine and Katie's school actually came in with the wrong shoes and they gave them Spider-Man slippers that were too small and they were going around hanging out the back.
In your secondary school or?
Yeah,
Oh my
they
God.
took that, so like for no uniform day, someone came in a onesie and they told them to take it off. There was no uniform day, what was the onesie going to do?
That's
You know, it was
awful.
really just silly things like that. Looking back, it's like, you know, you weren't allowed piercings or like your hair dyed. How did that affect my education? Because guess what? I came out no smarter than I went in. So whether I had piercings or had my hair dyed, like what difference was that? If I could go back, I would have probably told my home ec teacher to go fuck herself. I hated her. I hated. I didn't learn. That's why I can't cook to this day. From the get-go, she wasn't nice. Like, she was probably one of like the teachers I probably hated the most. If I could go back, I probably would have stood up to her because you know what I mean. Like, just that resentment there, because Kitty can relate to this. She wasn't a nice teacher.
You can have her around her trying to cook.
We had
Like a bad smell.
Yeah.
We had a metalwork teacher, and I don't know. They're probably never going to hear this, but for all purposes, I'm going to change his name. So I'm going to call him Mr. Simmons, but the listeners that I know were there, you'll know who I'm on about. So he was a metalwork.
Secret time.
he was a metalwork teacher, and he was this old guy, and he's done it for years, and I suppose he's very passionate about what he does or whatever. Look, I'm older now and I'm pondering back, so I'm thinking of it rationally. At the time, it wasn't rational, you know what I mean? At the time, none of this made sense. Why he was the way he was. Looking back, I can kind of take him apart and understand a few things. Anyway, so Mr. Simmons, you go into metalwork class. Then what he'd do is he'd address. Metalwork was like, say, 99% boys, 1% girl.
Yeah.
That's cool. And then he'd address like, Mr. Kelly, Mr. Diamond. And then we'd all have to go, here, sir. You know what I mean? So it'd be like, Mr. Kelly, here, sir. This guy would literally hurl things at people in metalwork class while screaming at you, and never once would he call you by your first name, even though he knew it. Every other teacher would be like, oh yeah, Sonny, you know, like, do you have your homework, Sonny? No, I don't, miss. Know what I mean? And now this guy's like, Mr. Rockefeller, and I'm like, use my first name. I'm going to call you by your first name, Seamus. You know what I mean? Use my first name. Oh, I don't know. It's
Actually, following on from that, Sonny, we had a lecturer in college, and he wasn't the nicest, but he had, like, I'm just going to call him like Donald, because he had a Donald Duck voice. And one day he came in to the class, and he was just like, hello. And one of the boys in my class turned around and just mimicked him straight off and goes, hello. And well, we took off for a fit. I laughing the whole class, the whole 40-minute lecture. I was gone. I kept crying because then all it reminded me of him just walking around, just Donald Duck. Do you remember like Mickey Mouse's Clubhouse? Just Donald Duck all off from there on. It was just that real annoying little nippy voice. Do you know, like one of those little chihuahuas, nippy.
What did he teach you?
What did he teach us?
Like EU law or something.
I actually no. I do you know what? To this day, it mustn't have been that interesting. I can't
Here's a
remember
good
what
one for you. CSPE.
Oh,
Did you have that?
What was that?
Or
What's the old one you
SPHE.
talk about sex?
SPHE was like about sex. I mean,
Yeah.
fair enough. We all got a giggle. We all had a chat. We all knew what was going on. But like CSPE, political, social, something.
Yeah,
Kirk,
What
did
the
you?
fuck?
exactly.
You know?
Kirk, did you have to do SPHE or
Yeah, I had CSB and
that's bringing back memories?
SPHE, and for CSPE we had to go to do a project with the county council to do with plumbing or like, sorry, it was to do with renewing the sewage system in Cork City.
Lovely.
And then for SPHE we had gender studies as well, which was kind of cool. And we had like personality tests, and obviously we had the whole talk about puberty and sex. And does everybody remember the letter that your parents would have to sign so that you could get permission to see the videos and learn?
Do you
about
remember
it?
we did that in 4th class? Like that was when we were like 10. We
I
started
did it
getting that
again in
talk.
leaving cert.
We did it like in 4th, 5th and 6th class. That talk.
Yeah,
like,
we had that talk as
We
well.
weren't
One
meant to
girl
get
passed
it
They
in
out.
had like
fourth
the
class.
girls and just tell them the
Did you have food dudes?
Yes.
Oh,
That's never been as traumatized over as
yeah.
now.
Yeah, I used to eat Kitty's tomatoes and she used to take my raisins. You know, we took one for each other's teams.
And it'd all be for a shitty rubber at the end of it. Or
Yeah, we're pen or something. And they think like you're actually saving the world or doing your bit for like the environment, but you're not.
Or
And
do
then
you
you got the magnet. I have one to this day, the food dude magnet. The Eve one.
So do
Yeah.
I.
Yeah.
or do you ever have like this competition, maybe in primary school, if your secondary school was a bit odd, maybe you have this in secondary school. But where you do really well in primary school, and then at the end of the week, whoever done really well gets this little character, like a little teddy.
Yeah.
And you get to like take the teddy home, you know what I mean? And then you get to take these teddies on all little adventures, and you have to write about your adventure with Teddy, and do you know what I mean? Every week Teddy goes on an adventure, like, you know what I mean?
Well, from all the shows I've watched, right, in like the American schools or something, like for any Americans wanted, like, actually tell me if this is true or not, they have a class pet. Can you imagine Ireland if they have a class pet? We couldn't collectively, like, what's that saying? We couldn't organise a fucking piss up in a brewery. There we go, right? And fucking, where was I going with that story? Like,
Are they having pets in school?
oh yeah, pets like bunnies. We wouldn't even be able to take a fish. The fish would die after 2 days. They're going around taking care of bunnies and
Or
stuff.
someone would be putting crayons in the fish tank or something. Or glue in the
Sniffing glue.
You don't know what goes on.
Do you know what that reminds me of? Recess. Does anyone do you know what? I wish I could go back to my youth just for like what we grew up with.
You
know, like, they taught me a lot. Do you know what? I learned more from Rugrats than I did from my secondary school experience, and that's God's honest truth. Look now. Sorry to our listeners if you can hear any noise in the background.
We've a little, it sounds like an RTD2, a beep boop.
Just like, oh, it's gone. Okay.
Thank you. Maybe it just wanted to be acknowledged. Is there, we'll go around the room one more time and see, does anybody have any more things that they wish they knew before they were in their 20s, or wished like they could tell their younger self? Whatever way you interpret it.
Katie, do you want to go first?
And like, again, like, my point would be to my younger self is when you grow up, you're going to like, I don't know, I think most people go through this as like experience and fear from judgment of others. So I wish if I was younger that I'd say, look, just don't care what people think about you. Do your own thing, like, be unique, you know. Like, if you have interests that aren't the same as everyone else's, you go ahead with those interests.
I wish I could go back and someone could tell me just to slow down and stop having a heavy hand with that blue eyeshadow, and for God's sake, get a foundation that matches your skin and blend it to your neck. And don't be going out with those little pencil skirts to a disco, because they'll keep riding up your arse. And your father was right. If I could go back, honestly now, oh, the state of me going out the door looking at that. And my parents let me, lads. Just for the definition, discos in Ireland, right, you go around and you'd shift out and that would crawl, right, and there always used to be a curtain and unspoken things that would go on behind those curtains. And if I could go back and tell my younger self, do not get in like a shifting more with anyone, don't be going around just kissing everybody, because now what we know nowadays is that can lead to some dirty things.
Glandular fever.
Yeah, the kissing disease, that's meant to be...
I've never had it, thank God.
No, I don't either.
I haven't. Not that I know of, anyway.
Has any of our listeners had glandular fever? And if so, tell us your experience and what it was about. Never know, might get mentioned in next week's episode.
Non-fiction books are worth your time. Stop obliterating a whole category of things because it doesn't conform to what you think. Don't be afraid to be yourself. I feel like growing up, I definitely wore so many masks, or like pretended to be something I wasn't for people, or just like to be liked.
Yeah, it's kind of like, don't be a sheep, don't blend in, just do you.
Don't box dye your hair. You couldn't get red out of your hair for 3 years.
Agreed.
Don't quit piano. I wish I kept going with instruments, because now I'm trying to relearn, and it's definitely harder to learn things as an adult than when you're a kid and you have like less responsibilities. Your parents are paying for stuff for you,
and you have more balls. I feel like when you're younger, like, you overthink as the years kind of go on, so you're like, am I good enough for this? Because I feel like when you're younger, it's like when you're a kid, you don't care. Like, nothing fazes you, and then when you actually start to get a conscience, and you're like, oh no, like, it kind of overthinking when it
creeps up on you like a bad
life
smell.
has literally fucked me over. Like, I'm definitely not where I want to be in life just yet, you know. Like, I thought I'd all have it figured out by nearly 26 years of age, and I don't. Like, with a degree left with nothing because of this country, do you know what I mean? It made me angry, resented a lot for a while, but I'm coming to terms with it now. The fact that, like, I spent 5 years in college and got nothing for it. But, like, if I could go back as well, I would tell my younger self to, like, do a different degree, go down a different path than college. Like, I wouldn't take my college experience back for the world, but not the actual going into college. Like, I mean the actual living out on my own, getting pissed, getting drunk 5 nights a week, do you know what I mean? Just being a kid, you're never going to get that back again. Like, the older I get, the more I realise that. I go back and tell myself, enjoy your school years, enjoy living at home. They are literally, well, my mum always used to say, they're the easiest years of your life. And I used to, fuck me, they really are, lads, the easiest years of your life. Like,
School days.
yeah, because you're living at home, you have no worries. Like,
And like, what advice would you give that self?
School days were the easiest days of my life. And then the only, not the only advice, but like if I was like about to like disappear like dust and I could say one last sentence to myself, it would be like, save your money, dickhead.
yeah.
And then I just fade away because also stop buying coffees out.
Yeah.
Because that's just ruining everything really. And one coffee, one peanut butter cup, you know what I mean? Not the healthiest breakfast in the world.
But like one of the girls did it and she spent like €20 on coffee a day. That's like that's like €140 a week.
I don't
That's
even
like,
want to think how much I spend on coffee.
Yeah.
It's one of those things now, life has become like so fast paced that you like, it's a kind of a life of like many careers.
Yeah.
You could go bounce from one to the other. Like, social media has become a very big influence on everyone's daily lives, and that's where most people kind of delve in and get jobs now as well, like freelance workers. Like, it's more kind of, you don't have to just sit there at a desk job all day. You can make traveling your job, do you know what I mean? It's kind of exciting that way. And the way we think about it is, I've come to learn that at 25, you know, you don't have to have it all figured out. Like, there's people in their 50s that are still figuring this shit out.
Do you think it's a drive for money and like a drive for excitement that makes people go for the freelance jobs? And like you said, like,
Oh yeah.
like compared to 10 or even 20 years ago or 30, like when people are our age, they were settled down, they had kids, they had families. Do you think it's that drive and like the want for more money and excitement that's making people change lifestyles?
Definitely, because I know for myself, like, you know, I would like to be making a bit of money and like work less, but, you know, travel and stuff like that. That's the ideal lifestyle. It's not like kind of 50 years ago where a woman kind of stayed home and had to travel for a man's job, you know what I mean? Both can kind of like go and experience it. Now, personally for myself, I don't want children or I don't want to be married. Like, I honestly don't see a point in marriage, and I just don't want to rear, if I'm honest. But like, as a woman, I obviously get comments about like, oh, you'll definitely want to one day, why don't you? And I'm, you know what, I don't answer back anymore. If any of our listeners, like female listeners, like that don't want kids, like experience that, just know you're not alone, and tell everyone to go fuck themselves and mind their own business. And that's the way I see it, because you know what, like, I watch RuPaul's Drag Race, and as RuPaul says, if them bitches ain't paying your bills, pay them no mind.
That's a good saying. What do you think, Kitty?
Yeah, like, I don't know, but like when I was younger, say child, I envisioned myself being 25 and having children.
Yeah.
And like being settled down with someone and having a house and a car and a job and everything like that. Like, I have a job, but you know what I mean, like a career that I thought I'd be. But it's just like something to realise in your 20s, anyone listening, don't feel like a failure. Everyone's just figuring stuff out. It's not all going to come to you. You might be 30 when you finally get your own house. Like, there's no time frame on this kind of stuff. That's like what I keep reminding myself.
Yeah, no, I felt like a failure for the longest time as well, that like I had a degree and came out with nothing, and then it's like the kind of, you overthink and you kind of feel down, and then you're on social media, and many of our listeners will kind of know that, like, when social media, you see all these beautiful people with beautiful lives, and nothing is, trust me, that can be fully constructed. Nothing is what it seems on the internet, we've come to know. And just because they have money, they could be the most depressed people. Mm-hmm. Now, I wouldn't like to tell you, I would like to be depressed in a Bentley and own my own private island, I'm not going to lie, but like, you know, money doesn't always buy happiness, and sometimes it can bring very toxic people into your life. Yeah. But like, for myself, I would like personally down the line to experience what it is like to have money. I'm not going to lie. You know, I've been so long without it. It would be nice, you know.
Yeah. What do you think, Sonny?
I think the conversation's a bit heavy. And I think we've been talking about this for quite some time.
Are you going to lighten the load?
I'm going to lighten the load a little bit. I'm not going to lighten the load with a life hack, but what I am... Well, actually, here we go. For anybody who is not an Irish person out there, well, look, I'm not saying it's only an Irish thing. I'm Irish, born, reared in Ireland. All I'm trying to say is it just seems to be a common thing in each household. So call it a life hack, call it a bit of a munch, call it whatever you want. what you need to do is you need to make this thing called a tato sandwich.
Oh,
Yes.
and slob that butter on, lads, like
Now-
you've never lobbed it before.
Don't fear a bit of cheese either.
Yeah.
The cheapest of white bread you can find in Aldi. Because look, you ain't gotta have to break the bank to eat well. The most expensive thing that you're going to need to buy in today's climate is that pack of tato. But
Well,
look,
you can get Spuddies and Aldi.
It's not the same as
If you don't have an Aldi sliced pan white bread,
they probably don't know what a sliced pan is.
that's not fair to our listeners. Everybody in every country nearly has access to the internet and Google.
I know, but I just mean, would you like to explain what a sliced pan is, just in case they don't know?
Sliced bread.
Yeah?
Thank you, Dizzy.
When you get into the news of it, why is it a pan?
A pan of bread.
Probably over time the Irish have just constructed their own word for it.
I'm fairly sure it probably comes from some French word.
Oh yeah, because pan in French is like bread, isn't it? It's not like pan, it's like pronouncing French like pan.
I have no
Pan au
idea.
chocolat.
Pan au chocolat.
If anybody knows what bread is in French, please comment below.
That's Munchie Tip of the Week. But because Dizzy and Kitty Cat have been friends for so long, I'm sure the two of you probably have two very funny stories. They don't have to involve both of you each time. One of them would be appreciated. Two very funny stories just to give the listeners kind of an idea of like your friendship, how long you've been together, and you know, if we have Kitty Cat on the podcast down the line again, I'm sure our listeners would love to hear her. But you know, just something to
I'm
lighten.
happy to be here.
So something just to lighten the load and to leave us off on a happy note.
Okay, well, we've been probably friends for what, like 20 years
Yeah.
at this stage?
How long?
20.
Oh
I'd
my
say years.
God.
More, I'd say,
Pro-
'cause,
more.
like, we would've been in
Play school, probably
together.
22 years.
Well,
Probably 22 years.
22 years, lads.
Yeah, we're
That's
only-
nearly a quarter of a century.
That's more than most marriages,
And
huh?
lads, can we just be friends? Both of us are like only like 25 years old. So
Yeah.
this is like, you know, this is 22 out of 25. This is still going strong.
Ain't bad.
And to tell you a funny story, we've got pissed together so many times. Like there was one time it was me, Kitty, and one of our other friends, and Kate, like we would just say something about Katie when she's drunk, she likes to wander. And you know about any drunk people, like sometimes they don't tend to listen either. So the only way we could tell, we should kind of stream behind her a bit. And like, by the way, the context of this is we were over in our friend's house and we thought our mum were going camping in our granddad's house next door. We didn't. We went over to some lad who was a bit older than us. We drank Captain Morgan. I let his dog escape and he had to go running after him around his estate. Anyway, this is on the way back of us getting pissed at 16 years of age in an estate, everyone gawking at us. Oh my God. Right. Anyway, up she goes up the road. We were like, right, how the fuck are we going to get her back now? Because she's just wandering off. We goes, Kitty, hop into the bush. Next minute, she just dived and her little legs dangling out. We ran up and she was just, we can get out now, happy as Larry. Like, she's just so happy when she was drunk. But like, I will remind you, we were like quite young. Because in Ireland, you know, at 16, and that's actually quite old to start. You know, it's tradition. You tell your mum and dad that you're going over to stay in a friend's house and you end up pissed in a field.
With a big bottle of cider.
Yeah.
No.
What the
Linden Village.
We found out about your tend to jump into bushes after a few drinks. Now, can you tell us anything, a little secret about Dizzy on a night out and what she might be like?
Well, she's happy because she'll just have a Red Bull and a vodka. Like, that's basically Lizzie, like. And to be fair, we've had a few memories now, me and her, of sneaking out when we were younger.
Oh my God. Out with my parents, like mobile home.
So we
Sneaking out to boys. Drinking, getting caught by undercover Garda.
Yeah.
And my parents never found out about it until I told them about 2 months ago about all the shenanigans we got up to.
They did catch us
once, and we were never allowed, the three of us, back down there again. They caught us out at 5 o'clock in the morning with 3 fellas. And my father, I can remember his face to this day in the car, just pulling up, looking at me like a deer in headlights. And you know when your parents give you that look, it's the same look when they're going to get the wooden spoon. Any Irish person will know. If I could go back and tell my younger self, just don't
Run! Run! She's coming for you. She will hit you.
Do you remember that book? Yeah, my father's expression on his face.
Yeah.
Oh, we were never
Yeah,
because how we were getting away with it so long is my mother had broke her arm and she was like in the mobile home. She was sitting in the sitting room, so when we were sneaking out, the door was right by my bedroom. That's how we were getting away with it. Only got caught once. Brilliant though, the amount of times we were doing it. Jeez, we were doing that for years before we got caught. So jokes on them.
for getting caught.
Yeah, but we were doing it for so long. I was surprised we didn't get caught beforehand. We weren't discreet either. One time we came back at 7 o'clock in the morning. We were hiding behind the car. The dog was up and started barking. Nearly got fucking caught. My mother goes, you know, I heard the dog and everything. I remember that. And I was like, yeah, we snuck out. What can she do about it now?
What about you, Sonny and Girk? What are your funny stories?
So I've known Girk quite a long time. Not as impressive as he. About 8 years, 8 and a bit years.
Yeah. I'm still going strong.
Still going strong.
Yeah.
And okay, this is one I'll tell our listeners.
Oh God.
This is one I'll tell our listeners, right?
Mm-hmm.
Early on of me meeting Girk decided, oh, I'm going to go on a girls' night. We're going to do it kind of hippie style, as the Irish know. We're gonna go drinking in a field.
It was actually, to my defence, it technically wasn't a field. It was in a park in a ruined castle.
Okay, so it's a bit classier than a field, okay?
Is that how you do it down in Cork?
And you know, just me being the gentleman that I am, I decided, look, I'm going to walk you down to said girls' party. So we go down, fine, you know, nothing out of the ordinary, go in, everybody's drinking, everybody's having a good time, nothing serious. When I got there, everybody was fine.
Just to
everybody was fine. I was, you know, having communicable conversations with every individual that was at this party. I myself was in absolutely no way, shape or form going to stay there and drink outside in that room that night. I just had, you know, better things to be doing, I suppose. But I was like, right, you know what you're going to do? Give me a call when you're finished. We'll see what's happening. I go home. I'm watching some sort of series. I can't remember at this stage. I get a phone call. Sonny, will you please come down and get me? My friends are after pissing themselves and we can't find our way out.
Somebody got sick as well. So one of them had like I had piss all over a grey tracksuit pants. The other one was covered in her own puke.
At least if you know if you're a pisser on a night, wear a black tracksuit pants, you know, when you go with yourself. Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
So we're there and I'm like, okay, I'm coming. Took me about 15 minutes. They managed to find themselves out of said ruin and said park, and I meet them down by what is a soccer pitch, because this is kind of a walkway into the place. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Point of the matter being, I just see these group of people coming towards me. There was about 6 of them. Girk was...
I was in reasonable shape.
You were in reasonable shape. I think it's because the oxygen didn't hit you fully. You must have been sitting down in that ruin, you know, for a while. And then, like, the rest of the girls were absolutely polluted, you know. Their grey pants has turned a darker shade of grey because they're after peeing themselves. Puke all over the place. Absolutely disgusting.
They were polluted, like, to the point where they couldn't stand.
And
I fell once.
Pretty much. So we were like, right, we walked everybody to safety up to the city or up to the village. And then what do you do? You go get a chicken wrap, right? Yeah. Went into Drumsticks, got a chicken wrap. Bob's your uncle, Fanny's your aunt. Happy days, right? I myself, after such a traumatic experience of looking after 6 girls, you know, who were drinking, just all puking and peeing, and you know, me being
coming out from all angles,
seeing what I'm in the village, and you know, stressful. I'm like, right, I'm gonna go into the off license. I'm going to get myself, you know, a few drinks. Not
even just for you, for a relative as well.
For relative as well, and you know, my go-to drink at the time was a good old Koppelberg. Do any of our listeners like Koppelberg? Comment down below. Strawberry and lime is my go-to, and mixed fruits. If anybody would like to gift me with that the next time you see me, you know, I won't say no. So I go into the off license. Girk's waiting outside with her chicken wrap.
No. I dropped it at this point.
No, you haven't dropped it at this point. I'm after putting the alcohol in my favourite backpack at the time.
Oh yeah.
Oh, you're still salty about this backpack.
I walk towards the store of the off license, backpack in hand, me like, you know the way in an off license sometimes you have to carry your stuff and your man hands you the change after you picked up your stuff, and it's just kind of, it's an awkward experience.
Yeah.
I walk to the front of the door, Girk's there, stuffing her face with a chicken wrap, smiling at me while doing so. I'm absolutely delighted. She's happy. What do? Happy days. Give each other a hug, right? We go to give each other a hug. She knocks my bag from my hand onto the floor. The Koppelberg smash inside my favourite bag at the time. And not only that, she got upset, and in being upset, her hand must have released due to emotional distress as she dropped her chicken wrap on the floor. And do you know what? Thinking back at that time and that night, you cared more about your chicken wrap than you did my drinks.
Rightly so.
But
True
you know
Irish
what?
way,
Do you know
boy.
what? Do you know what? I have to say, I've had I've had nights out between then, and I've had chicken wraps that I felt, and you know what? I understand where you're coming from. So you're forgiven.
You understand the drama.
I'm not even joking, lads. I didn't even hear the bottles drop. And it was awful. Genuinely, because all I could think of on the way to the car was, I've lost my food, don't know where I'm going, don't know who's going to be there. I had to go home to Mammy, deal with Mammy. Mammy fed me cookies all night and filmed me to try and find out what was going on. So for every piece of information I was given a Pringle or a cookie.
And to all our listeners,
Tell us what you know.
To all our listeners, this is why Girk no longer drinks.
No.
She's been a pioneer now for a couple of years.
About two and a half years.
Well, I'm glad we put a bit of a bright side to what was a very serious podcast at the beginning. To all our listeners who were listening, do tell us any funny interactions that you've had on nights out, and for the upcoming things that you can look forward to on Sunday for the first time is going to be Shit Talk Sunday exclusively on Twitch. So we look forward to seeing who signs in and gives us a watch then. We'll be doing it at about 9 o'clock, so feel free to sign in and watch us there. Next week, of course, we have Reaction Wednesdays, and of course, every single Friday, you'll have the Unlucky Charms podcast. Now, always follow us on Instagram, follow us on Twitter, follow us on Twitch. We're also on TikTok, and of course, make sure the notification button is clicked so you can be notified every time we leave out a video. Until then, it's been great to speak to you guys. Balls. Right. Do quote now and I'll fucking skip it.
Right. Okay, we're going to finish off with an inspirational quote by Girk Wills when he just catches himself there for a minute. Girk, would you like to just take us out?
So this quote, we will finish every week on a quote, and we'll see you again on Sunday for Shitbox Sunday. And the quote is, "An insincere and evil friend is more to be feared than a wild beast. A wild beast may wound your body, but an evil friend will wound your mind." Buddha.
Now that's for one for you to think about now, lads.
Feel free to replace wound with wound or hurt, whatever you feel is acceptable.
And feel free to comment down below what you think of that quote of the day. Now, lads, it's been an absolutely brilliant podcast. Kitty Cat, thanks for joining us this week.
Thanks for having me. I'd like to come again.
And as always, guys, if you enjoyed what you said, feel free to give us a thumbs up, and of course follow us on Instagram, follow us on Twitter, follow us on TikTok, and make sure the notification buttons are on for next week's video. Until then, sláinte guys, peace out, have a good one.
Peace.
Peace.
Bye.